We're going to be looking at answering some questions that you might be having if you haven't been to the parks in a while, or you're just after advice as a first timer. I've got some questions that have been sent in from some of my followers on Instagram, and we're going to go through them together and hopefully I can answer them for you. So let's get started. If you're new here, my name is Kat. I'm from Melbourne, Australia, and as you can see from behind me, I'm a pretty big pop culture nerd, notably with Disney, which is probably why you're here today. My first question is about how long do you think you would need for a Disney trip? This is kind of a tricky question. The person who asked it is asking as a massive Disney fan. I'll start with Disneyland and then I'll go over to Disney World. So in all honesty, with my trip, it was definitely a streamlined version of the trip. We wanted to fit in as much as we could, as quick as we could, which is not the pace that everyone would want to do. Also, I traveled with my partner, or we do not have kids at this point, so that is another thing to bear in mind as two adults, so we can move at a lot more faster pace than someone with a family might be able to do. But going from our experience, we spent one day at Disneyland and one day at Disney California Adventure. I also attended Oogie Boogie Bash, which is an after hours event at Disney California. What I would recommend in terms of if you're looking for how long to go to Disneyland, I would probably say at least 2 days per park. But that being said, we got everything done that we wanted to do in the one day that we spent there. I obviously covered a lot more ground at California with the Oogie Boogie Bash as well. But I would recommend probably 2 to 3 days. It depends on how much time you've got, but if you have the time to spare, you could spend a couple of days at Disneyland, a couple of days at Disney California, and then also leave some time to go explore downtown Disney, as well as maybe if you want to check out Universal Studios Hollywood or anything else like that in LA. When it comes to Disney World, you're on a completely different playing field. Disney World is basically Disneyland times 4. Each park is about the size of Disneyland, and they're not close together. The benefit of Disneyland is that they're kind of all connected. So once you enter Disney area, depending on which direction you're coming from, California is on one side, California Adventure, and Disneyland is on the other side. And if you go straight, you can head towards downtown Disney. So they're all really close together. With Disney World, it is the complete opposite. It is a massive resort and you need buses to get around for the most part of the trip. So Disney World is definitely designed to be taken at a much slower pace than Disneyland, and for that reason you probably need more time there. In terms of how much time we spent, we did about 6 park days in total with 1 rest day, and that was a lot. A lot of people plan to spend about 1 to 2 weeks at Disney World, and again that would depend on who you're traveling with and the pace that you're after. If you're traveling with a family, I would probably recommend more towards the 2-week timeline, or if you've got plenty of time to go on holiday, take the 2 weeks and really enjoy it. If you're kind of short on time, you could probably get it done in about a week, maybe a little bit more if you have a family, but that would be my recommendation on how much time it took. For us personally, the way that we did it, because we were short on time, we spent 1 day at each park. So that was 1 day at Magic Kingdom, 1 day at Hollywood Studios, 1 day at Animal Kingdom, and 1 day at Epcot. And then we purchased an additional 2 days to go back to our 2 favorite parks, which were Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios. In terms of the parks themselves, there are definitely some parks that offer more for you to do, and some of them that you could probably get done a bit quicker. In my opinion, those parks would be more so Animal Kingdom and Epcot, that you don't need to spend as much time at, as opposed to somewhere like Magic Kingdom or Hollywood Studios, which is why we chose to go back. That being said though, we got lots done, and I guess Genie Plus does play a little bit into that, which is something I will talk about a little bit later, but it is definitely possible to get it all done in 6 days like we did. But if I was going to recommend based on, you know, unlimited time and unlimited funds, I would give you between 1 to 2 weeks depending on what you can afford. Another thing to note about Walt Disney World is that it is a resort. Most people stay on site, on property at Disney World, which is not so much a thing at Disneyland. And you know, you take the bus to get to each park. People usually spend about half the day at the park and then come back to their resort, have a bit of a swim in the pool, relax, have a nap. It's definitely designed to do at a slower pace. And you know, if you're staying in a nice resort, why not take advantage of those facilities? It would be a shame to waste them. So definitely do that. Make sure you don't overdo it. For us, we did very long park days some days, then other days we would take it a bit easier and leave and come back and have a bit of a rest. And you are going to need it. If you're doing multiple park days, you are definitely going to need the rest. Your feet are going to be killing you, and that's another point that we'll talk about later, is shoes, something that you definitely need to invest in. The next question is, did you find that you use Genie Plus most days, or could you manage without it? So if you don't know what Genie Plus is, it is a relatively new system, or in the last 2 years it's kind of new, that replaced the fast pass system that previously was at Disney World and Disneyland. How it works is that you can opt to pay a set price, which is $15 per day, and you can purchase what is called lightning lanes. This is the equivalent to a fast pass, so you're paying for a couple of fast passes that you can use throughout the day. It does say 2 to 3 rides that you can utilize, but depending on how you do it, they can be stacked, and you can definitely get up to 5 to 6, maybe even 7 rides, depending on how you utilize that. So whether or not it's a good investment, I personally did use it quite a bit. We used it in Disneyland just because we were so short on time and we really wanted to get the most out of the parks. Genie Plus came in handy definitely at those 2 parks, and works a little bit differently across the 2 parks as well in terms of buying it. It's not something you have to buy in advance, but you can. For Disneyland, if you don't buy it in advance, you can buy it when you enter the park. As soon as you get through the gates, you can purchase it. At Disney World, it works a little bit differently in the sense that you can purchase it from midnight on the day that you're arriving at the park, and from 7 AM you can start booking those lightning lanes, which is super handy. You can actually get that booked before you even enter the park. I might explain how we used it on a particular day to see if that makes it a bit easier to understand. So how does it work? We purchased it on one of our days that we were doing Hollywood Studios, just because we were going on a Saturday. We knew it was going to be busy. We wanted to be prepared. So what I did is, because we were in Disney World, I purchased it at midnight. 7 AM the next morning, I booked my first lightning lane, which is for Slinky Dog Dash, one of the most popular rides at the park. I got a return time, I think it was around 2 PM, and then I continued on to the park as I would. From there, every 2 hours, I was able to book in another lightning lane, and basically given an hour window where you can return to the ride and you can do the fast pass lightning lane, as they call it. You can bypass the queue, saves you a lot of time. Another thing you can do, which I didn't fully utilize because I didn't fully understand how it works, but once you actually redeem your lightning lane for a ride, you can then book another window as well. So there is a way to kind of stack your lightning lanes on top of each other and get more than the recommended 3 to 4 kind of rides per day. In terms of how much we used it, so we used it at Disneyland. I don't believe we used it for Disneyland California Adventure. I think it was just that first day. And then at Disney World, we used it for Hollywood Studios one day, one of our Magic Kingdom days, and I think potentially one other day. So I think it was 4 days in the entire trip we used it. So out of the 6 days we were at Walt Disney World, I think maybe it was 3 of the days there and 1 of the days in Disneyland. For Magic Kingdom, I found it to be incredibly helpful. Magic Kingdom is the most popular park at Disney World by far, and it really helped that particular day. It was a Monday, but it was so busy, and we were looking at 80-90 minute wait times for some of the rides that we wanted to go on. So Lightning Lane was amazing there. One thing to note with Genie Plus is that there are some rides that are excluded from Genie Plus. These are something that are called individual lightning lanes. So instead of paying for Genie Plus, you can actually opt to buy the ride pass separately. They're usually about $10 to $15 based on the ride, and some of the rides that are excluded are Rise of the Resistance, both at Disney World and Disneyland. Dwarves Mine Train is also one at Magic Kingdom. I believe there's one more. I think it's Remy, the Ratatouille ride at Epcot as well. So in summary, would I recommend Genie Plus? I think having that flexibility to buy it on the day is definitely something that I liked. So don't feel pressured to buy it before your trip. You can really make the call on the day based on the wait times. I don't think you need it every day, especially at some of the slower parks like Animal Kingdom and Epcot. We did not use it. So if you're staying at a Walt Disney World resort, you are automatically eligible for an early entry in the morning, which is like a half-hour window where you can get into the park before the general public. So if you take advantage of that most days, you probably can get so many things done that you don't even need Genie Plus. But if you're looking to take the day a bit slower, you might not be getting there till like 10, 11, and at the park starting to get busy, you might find that Genie Plus could be a good option for you there. My next question is, what was the highlight of your trip? And it's so hard to pick because honestly the whole trip was so magical for me. Disneyland is somewhere I've always wanted to visit since I was little, but it was never really something that was in reach for us. Same with Disney World, like you would always see the ads on TV, but it was just not really achievable when I was little. So this is something that I've been wanting to do my whole life. So the trip in general was so magical. In terms of highlights, I would have to say riding the original Haunted Mansion was really special for me. Watching the fireworks shows are always so emotional for me, so that's kind of where it hit me that I was there and the tears were flowing. I was, you know, very emotional. But also just meeting characters. In my previous trips that I've done at Tokyo and Disneyland Paris, we weren't really purposefully seeking out characters. We didn't really spend much time looking for them. I did spend a little bit more time doing that this trip, and those interactions are just things I will never forget. So I think those were probably the highlights for me. My next question is, what were my favorite rides? Haunted Mansion is my favorite ride in general, so I was always going to enjoy that. That was amazing. But in terms of the rides I hadn't experienced before, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind is probably one of the most fun roller coasters I've been on in so long. I really enjoyed that. At the moment it is virtual queue only. We had to jump on at 7 AM the morning we were going to Epcot and just hope that we got lucky enough to get a boarding pass, which we did. If you miss out that first group, you can jump in again at 1 PM. They open it up again. Otherwise I think you can pay for an individual lightning lane for that one, which is about $15. So if you can't get on the virtual queue, I definitely recommend buying the pass for it. It is so much fun. I really loved it. On theme with the Guardians of the Galaxy, I really enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout at Disneyland California Adventure, and because we were there at Halloween time, they also had the Monsters After Dark overlay. Getting to ride both of them was so much fun, but I especially loved the Monsters After Dark overlay. It was so much fun. I'm a big Tower of Terror fan in general, but I really loved what they did with that ride and how they made it so much more fun. I would go on it over and over again if I could. Rise of the Resistance was also really fun. I really enjoyed that. However, the first time we went on it at Disneyland, it broke down mid-ride, so that kind of, you know, tainted the experience a little bit, but it was still really fun. I really appreciated that. Incredicoaster, lots of fun. I really liked the Ratatouille ride at Epcot. At Animal Kingdom, Everest, the roller coaster was really fun, as well as Flight of Passage. My next question is best places to stay around Walt Disney World that aren't too expensive. We stayed at All Stars Music Resort, which is one of the more budget-friendly Disney resorts. So if you're looking to save a bit of money, because realistically, if you're anything like us, you won't be spending much time at your resort, the All Stars Music, Movies and Sport Resort are a really good option. They were pretty budget friendly, and we also managed to get a deal at the time for Disney Plus subscribers where you save 15% on accommodation, so that really helped. And there are a couple of other budget friendly options with Walt Disney World as well. In terms of whether to stay on site or off site, for Walt Disney World I would probably recommend on site, only because it would be a little bit more inconvenient in terms of getting to the park. Each resort has its own bus that will take you to the park each morning, and if you're not staying on site at a resort, you're going to have to kind of find your own way there. The next question is, can you please tell us about the inspiration behind your outfits? I like to participate in something that's called Disney Bounding. If you don't know what that is, it's basically just taking elements of a Disney character and putting that into your outfits. So a lot of my outfits that I planned were kind of nods to Disney characters in that sense. For Disneyland, I did actually commission a pumpkin dress, a pumpkin Mickey dress, because I was just so excited to finally see the Mickey pumpkin in person. So that dress was commissioned by an incredible creator called Lottie. Their Instagram is Little Gun Tank go check them out. I will link it here as well. But they did the most amazing job on that dress, and the details were just insane. Other than that though, I did mostly Disney bound. California Adventure, I did a Loki inspired outfit. I did also pick a couple of like spooky Disney outfits because it was Halloween time and I wanted to, you know, get some cute photos at the park. So I did have a couple of cake worthy dresses as well to take with me. For my first day at Magic Kingdom, I wore a iridescent style dress just because of the Walt Disney World 50th anniversary, and the theme was iridescent. For Hollywood Studios, the first day I wore a Toy Story dress for Toy Story Land. My second day at Hollywood Studios, I wore more of a Star Wars inspired outfit. For Epcot, I wore a Ratatouille Remy bound, and then for Animal Kingdom we went with more of a safari vibe. It was a lot of fun to outfit plan if you have the time and the patience to do it. It's one of the things I looked forward to doing the most, and I got a lot of compliments on my outfit. It was like, it just really made my day every time someone came up to me and said, hey, I really love your outfit. So if you can do it, I would definitely recommend it. My next question is, which was your favorite Disneyland or Disney World? There's so much to love about both of them. I think I prefer Disneyland just a little bit more, and that kind of ties back to what I was saying earlier in terms of how accessible they are to each other. The fact that then Disneyland and Disney California Adventure are across the park from each other, and downtown Disney is also really close together. In terms of accommodation, we stayed about a 10-minute walk from Disneyland, so we could walk there every morning, didn't have to get any transport to Disneyland, and it was just super easy. Everything was easy to get to, as opposed to Walt Disney World. There was a lot more transport involved. I think there was also something special about being at the original Disneyland park. Like, no shade to Disney World, it was amazing, but yeah, it's just something special knowing that that was the first park and all the rides there were the original rides. So I think Disneyland wins. My next question is, how expensive were the items at the gift store with conversion rate? This is one thing that was a little bit of a killer. Being from Australia, going over to the US, the Australian dollar just does not do well over there at all. So that's something to be mindful for when you're saving for this trip, is budget as much as you can, save as much as you can, because you are going to be blindsided by the money that's coming out of your account when you go over there. Not only are you factoring in the conversion rate, you also need to factor in taxes, and if you're doing any kind of service in terms of like if you're a restaurant or anywhere where someone is serving you, you also need to require to factor in a tip. I spent quite a bit more money than I thought I was going to on this trip, but that being said, I have absolutely no regrets. I did do quite a bit of shopping, which I'm going to be doing in another video, which I will link. I'm happy with what I purchased. I'm happy with all the food that we had for the most part, so there's no regret. My advice to you is, if you can save that little bit extra, you're gonna need it. My next question is food recommendation. A lot of the things I tried, I was trying for the first time, and a lot of those things are like the classic Disneyland snacks that everyone has, because it was my first time there. But if I was to shout out foods that were the most memorable to me, I really enjoyed the Ronto wraps at Galaxy's Edge. We got them a couple of times and they were just really good. The food at Be Our Guest is amazing, but that is, I guess, what you pay for. Is probably one of the higher end dining experiences that you can do, and if you have the food there, you'll understand why. Everything was delicious, but it was also like so fancy. It was amazing. If you can do it, and if that does fit into your budget, I would definitely recommend it. Another dining experience that we did was at Tusker House in Animal Kingdom. That was one that I really loved as well. It is a family style restaurant. It used to previously be buffet style, but since COVID they've changed it to more of a family style menu. What that means is that they just bring you some of everything, so you get to try everything on the menu. Like, we had beef, chicken, I'm trying to think of what other meats we had now, but there were a lot of different things to try there. Mac and cheese as well is renowned, so definitely try that if you can. Also, it is a character meet and greet, character dining experience, so you do get to meet characters while you were there. So we got to meet Mickey, Goofy, Donald and Daisy, all dressed in their safari outfits. So that was, it made it even more special. So that was one of my favorite dining experiences. The next question is, how do I go about booking advanced dining reservations for Walt Disney World? I go in January and I'm nervous. So with dining reservations, they open up in a 60-day window from when you are arriving. So 60 days in advance you can book, and that opens at 6 a.m. at that respective park. So you might just need to do a little bit of time conversion there. From memory, for me, I think it was about 8 p.m. here, was about 6 a.m. there. And sometimes you can get on a little bit earlier at like 5:45, but be ready and ready to go straight away. If there's something that you're wanting to do in terms of a dining experience, I would make a list of the priorities and jump on that 60-day window at 6 a.m. if you can. Jump on straight away and just book it in, because the more popular a dining experience is, the more likely it's going to be booked straight away. And I guess if you do miss out, don't stress. There is always the option that people will cancel, so just keep checking back, and you might even find that you have a window for what you want. But the best way to go about it is to jump on 60 days in advance and book it. And my last question is, how did you find they accommodated COVID, etc.? Have things changed? So I guess I don't have that hindsight of knowing how things were in the park prior to COVID, because I unfortunately had not been able to get over there prior. But in terms of how they're handling COVID now, I will say that I feel like it's kind of swept under the rug a tiny bit there. Like, they do have hand sanitizer and things around, but you know, masks are optional and not many people are wearing them. If I'm going to be completely honest with you, it's hot, people are sweating, they don't want to be wearing a mask. We did sometimes, but not always. And for a lot of the rides, especially ones with kind of areas where you need to watch a presentation or something before you go onto the ride, they tend to jam pack you into a room, so there's not a lot of social distancing going on. Some areas there it is encouraged, but for the most part I found that they were just trying to get as many people on rides and jam as many people into spaces as they could. If you are worried at all, I would recommend wearing a mask still, and carry hand sanitizer with you, wash your hands regularly, and social distance where you can. It's hard, especially in ride queues where people are not going to give you the space that you need, but just do what you can and just be safe. So that is all the questions I have for now. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who sent through questions for me. If you do have any other questions, I'd love to hear them in the comments below, and hopefully I can answer them for you. But I'll be posting a lot more videos on my trip in terms of advice for first timers. I'll be showing you what I bought as well when I went over there, and I did actually vlog every single day of the trip, so I'll be working on getting those up shortly. So if you'd like to hear more about my trip or just in general, be sure to subscribe to my channel. There's lots more to come, and I'm really excited to see what's next. Thank you again for watching if you've made it this far, and I will see you next time. Bye.